Be careful.
And Scott Higgins, both of them coked up out of their minds.
Listen to you. He's down in the basement.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I think we should call this the Acement.
The Acement, yes.
Yeah, what do you think there, huh?
I like that. The Acement Studios.
Excuse me, I'm drinking beer. Hold on a second.
We usually drink bourbon on our end
Yeah,
when we
right.
do the podcast, so
That's all right.
feel free to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You shoot an 8-ball if you want. We don't care, as long as it's good stories.
And welcome to the Acement, everybody. This is Scott Higgins.
And this is Ace Aceto.
And welcome to this week's episode. We are excited to have you guys here. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for telling a friend. And thank you so much for giving us those 5-star reviews. Those are all great ways to help the podcast, and you guys have always stepped up and helped us out.
He's punching the table.
I'm like excited.
It's bouncing the fucking
I'm
camera.
like, yeah. I'm like a little kid.
All of a sudden, it looks like we're in an earthquake.
Sorry. I'm just.
That's all right. That's all right.
This is going to be so fun.
This is an exciting night for us.
Is it. But before we get going, we got to introduce this week's girlfriend.
Yes. Evidently, we're into bestiality this week.
Yes. Our new mistress for this week is Old Elk.
sounds like a cologne from the 70s. What's that your father's smell?
Is he wearing high karate again? No, he's wearing Old Elk this week.
It's like Sex Panther.
Actually, yeah, we went with the MILF of bourbons this week. Old Elk.
You can't do that to me, man.
No, this was recommended by my buddy at the package store. When I went in this week, he said it's
the fact that you have a buddy at the package store scares me.
That's not as much as it does my family.
Yeah, right.
When I walk in and he goes, "Yeah, we got it over on the shelf," and I didn't even say what I wanted.
What it was? Yeah.
But he recommended
awesome.
this. It's a bourbon actually out of Colorado.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Old Elk Distillery,
Rocky Mountain water.
And so here's to this week's mistress.
Yeah, hey,
cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Oh, you're calling me buddy tonight. People, it's funny because people ask us, how long have you guys known each other? What's the relationship? And
it's funny because when you do something like this, people want to know, are you guys really friends? Or do you just do the podcast together?
No, we're really friends. And I think last night Scott brought it to the next level
without even thinking about it.
Dude, it
was so
you said what you said. You said what you said, and I go, did you just hear yourself?
And I totally didn't. Totally didn't. I called Ace to talk about a few things about the podcast and stuff coming up.
Yeah.
And we were talking about what's going on tonight before the podcast.
And I usually, as you know, during the summer hours, I usually golf. And so usually we golf, we go grab a bite to eat, and then I'm running in like 5 minutes before the show. But I have everything all set up beforehand. Yeah. So I told Scott, I said, hey, it's supposed to be really rainy and shitty tomorrow. I don't think we're golfing, but I think we might still get together for dinner. So I'll still be coming from dinner. And Scott goes
without hesitation.
But it was the way you said
it. And
he goes, oh yeah, that's all right. Yeah, go out with the guys.
It was
I go, dude, do you realize the way you just sounded like you just took our relationship to a new level?
It was
like
such
you sound like my girlfriend
thing to say. And he just beat me up over it. And deservedly so, because I would have done the same.
It was funny.
Reverse.
Oh, no, honey. You go out with the boys.
And I was like, oh, yeah, you have fun with the boys. And then tonight, when he didn't get here till 15 minutes before, I'm sitting at cross-armed like, did you have fun with the boys? Mr. I'm coming in last minute.
Yeah, while I was here already.
Setting everything up by myself. No, I didn't do that.
But you wanted to, I know. You held yourself back because I would have called you out.
I did, but
that's
yes.
So funny.
So we are friends.
Yes.
We are friends outside of the podcast. So that was a very real moment that happened last night. And I feel like an ass over it. And I appreciate you bringing that up to me.
No, it was good.
So
it was good.
But yes, thank you again for joining us. We got a great episode this week.
Yes. So before we start, Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling now live. Our friend Robin says it's obvious you're friends. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Robin.
Follow us on Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling, and we are very, very excited. We've been excited for a while on this show because from our opening sequence or our title sequence that we have been a fan of this guest. We didn't know him before, and we've said it before. By the end of the last podcast, we were like, oh my God, I hope he comes to the East Coast, because I don't care. I don't even care if it's like Washington, D.C. I'll drive down and grab a beer with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
We instantly hit it off with this guest. We love this guy. And he was on I think it was last summer, and he was alluding to the fact that, we had talked about his original book called The Encyclopedia of Hell, which was a satiric book. And a satanic book, I guess.
Nice
how's
play
that?
on words.
Look at me,
Mr. Fucking Literal over here.
How you doing? But he alluded to the fact that he was writing a sequel, and he was kind of talking a little bit about it, and it sounded really intriguing. And so he reached out to me a couple of weeks ago. I was just out of the blue. He said, "Hey, can I come back on the show? I'd love to talk about the new book. It's done." And I was like, absolutely. So cool. I mean, we were looking for an excuse to get him back, and he had the excuse.
We didn't even need an excuse. We just wanted him back on, and now he has the book to talk about, which is even better.
Exactly. So here's the cool thing. I read this. So there's already a review on his book, and this review is from Inc.com. And they said 7 books to make you laugh during the imminent apocalypse.
Well, that's a good setup right there.
Yeah, listen, this is the sub headline: climate disasters, plagues, Bezos. If the disasters get you down, here are some books that will pick you up. And it was 7 books, and the number 1 book that they named. So they went in order. So they had 7. So this gives you an idea. Number 7 was Vladimir Putin, life coach. Life
Just
will
the title's
be
funny.
life will be the death of me and you too. The Time Machine did it. Dear Girls.
Let's not promote all those books.
No, but the number 1 book, author Martin Olson, The Encyclopedia of Hell 2, A Demonic History of the Future Concerning the Celestial Realm and the Angelic Race which infects it.
That just falls off the tongue.
No, the actual title of the book is The Conquest of Heaven.
Yes.
And so I remembered Martin talking about this last year. This is the review they gave it. And so finally we come to one of the funniest books of all time, a book peculiarly suited for the coming apocalypse, in that it probably describes how the end is likely to play out. Like its predecessor, Encyclopedia of Hell, The Conquest of Heaven is impossible to categorize except as a comedic literary masterpiece that must be savored page by page. It's an examination through bombastic letters, emails, drawings, folk tales, and court depositions of a vast mega battle for the control of the universe. Think of it as Paradise Lost meets The Office on LSD.
Oh my God. that is a
best,
phenomenal review.
That is the best book review. If that doesn't make you want to read this book,
I
don't know
God.
what will. So we are so honored and excited to welcome our new friend, now our old friend, to the podcast, Behind the Funny, Mr. Martin Olson. Here he is, Martin, and we get to see you this time.
Yes.
Yeah,
you bombastic bastard.
Yes.
Hey, nice opening title sequence. That was great.
Thank you. You like that?
Yeah, that was really good.
You know what? If you could line up the voice actress that does what's her name? The big sister on Phineas and Ferb to yell, Mom, Sky and Ace did a title sequence.
Oh, let me work on that. You never know.
I think my kids would actually respect me for once. Actually, my kids wanted to know, you're getting the guy from Phineas and Ferb again? Oh my God. Like, Dad, you're not a piece of shit. Yeah, well, they're teenagers now, so you know.
Well, I have three kids, Martin, and they're all adults, and you were the only guest that impressed them. So,
you're kidding?
Yeah, they were huge Phineas and Ferb fans when they were. So, same thing.
Oh my God! Wait, some comments that came in. I'm gonna show you this. So says,
Oh,
wow,
great.
that's a huge accomplishment.
Great.
And then she said, did he write the review himself?
I love our
And then
audience.
she actually said, I definitely want to read it. So that's awesome. No, listen, man, we are so
thanks,
excited you're back on. We, we felt like you became a friend of ours last year on the podcast.
Man, that was fun. That was
and so we were looking for excuses to have you back on. And when you reached out to me and said, hey, the book is done, I don't know if you remember me talking about the book, and I do. So for our audience who may not have heard your episode, talk a little bit about first the Encyclopedia of Hell and what the format was and what it was about. And then that will lead into, into the new book.
Well, I was so lucky to get the book published because the whole book was rejected 27 times.
Really?
And it was also rejected by 18 book agents. So it just was a weird fucking story of how it got published. I play piano for comedy clubs.
Right.
And so I was at the Steve Allen Theater for Ron Lynch's show, The Tomorrow Show, one of the funniest shows in LA, the Midnight Show. And after the show, I'd go out to smoke a cigarette and have a beer with Amit Idelman, who runs the theater. And an actor came up while we were talking and he said, "Hey, Martin, I read your book." I said, "Wait a minute, how did you read it? Because it's not published."
You
But
found it in the trash can?
Well, the weird thing was I sold the film rights to Warner's before it was published.
Oh.
My agent, because I'm a TV writer, my agent sent it around. And that was suddenly the book's a success, even if it doesn't get published, because I got so much dough I lucked out.
Right. Even though they didn't make the movie, right?
And they didn't make the movie after a year and a half. And so this was the year 2000, before even emails and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, the early days of that. And so they sent around the hard copy. Warner Brothers sent the hard copy, which was 400 goddamn pages, and sent them out to people. And so people had copies of it. And he ended up with one by hook or by crook, working as an assistant, this actor friend.
Yep.
And so he started talking about the book and how much he thought it was really funny. And I just was, it was great to hear. And I was so surprised. And he left because he had to go because it was late. And Amit said, "You wrote a book?" I said, "Yeah, but I can't get it published." And, and I told him the whole litany. And he said, "Wait a minute." And he had this weird fucking look on his face. And I'll never forget. It was like a full moon. He's looking up, and he says, "I want you to." Oh, he said, "Do you have the book finished as an attachment you could send someone?"
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Yeah. In fact, I have a mock-up with a lot of illustrations and stuff in it, and it's made the rounds. Nobody will publish it because the satire doesn't sell."
Right.
So he said, "I want you tonight to do something for me. Send it to my friend at Feral House Publishing." I said, "I know Feral House. That's my favorite publisher, and they're an underground publisher. They don't do any fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly not comedy. It's all underground stuff that's by Charles Manson and all this crazy shit." So,
Well, it was the Encyclopedia of Hell.
Yeah,
Come
right.
on.
Yeah.
well, that's why you said it. So I said, "Nice, thank you for the thing." He says, "No, you don't understand. I just had a flash." So in other words, this is something that happened to him uniquely every once in a while. So he said, "Please do, as a favor to me, send it to my friend Adam Parfrey, who runs Feral House Books."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Okay, but first of all, you never ever send in a whole book. You have to do a query first and so on. It's totally unprofessional." He said, "Please just do it."
Right.
"Tell him I told you to send it, and tell him that I told you to attach it." So I did it.
Yep.
So 2 weeks go by, I don't hear anything. Of course, I'm not expecting to hear anything. It's such a bombastic, idiotic thing to do, send a whole book without a query letter first.
Right.
Plus, it's been rejected by every publisher. So the guy, Adam Parfrey, sends me an email. And I said, "Oh, hey, Kay, my wife, Adam just sent me a rejection." So I read it, and he says, "Dear Martin, I just read through your book. Feral House does not publish fiction, poetry, humor, screenplays, or anything of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was like a gap. We had to scroll down, a big wide gap in the email.
Yeah.
So I'm scrolling down, and he was fucking with me. At the bottom, he said, however, Feral House would be delighted to publish your book.
Wow.
I've been reading it, and I was laughing so much. It will be the first piece of fiction or comedy that we've published.
In other words, you broke the mold. They
wow,
had this formula, and they decided we got to get away from that because this is that good.
I mean, apparently, but the main thing was, I mean, I just broke all the rules because Amit had this flash. So that was a weird beginning to the whole saga.
Right.
Well, I think that the book is just, it's different than probably the standard humor type of books that they receive and everything like that. So it kind of stood out, and it probably fit within the type of thing that they published, that underground type of stuff and everything like you were talking about. So
it's pretty. You're right. You're exactly right, Scott. It's a very harsh book.
Now, how did you get the idea for the book to begin with? Where did that come from? The idea that you started?
I'm a fan of Mark Twain and Ambrose Bierce and those old timers.
Right.
And the whole thing about that is they write very dark fiction, like Edgar Allan Poe did.
Right.
And they also write about Satan, because all bets are off if you have the voice of Satan talking.
Right. Right.
So
you can
now,
say whatever you want, right?
With the current climate now, it's literally impossible to say the wrong thing in comedy. It's not culturally possible until this sort of evens out and blows over.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes, we do.
Thing, because now that we have, diversity is the key thing. We're in showbiz. I'll tell you the truth. Having that as being the number one box to tick off for meetings and shit, that's the greatest thing that could possibly have happened. Because before, if you're a woman or if you're a minority, you literally, your chances are nil.
Right.
Right.
Now your chances are, it's way more. It's a little more slanted towards that, but eventually it's all going to balance out, and it's just the most beautiful thing that's happened.
Eventually it will swing back to the middle. Right.
Right.
And we should explain to the audience. I know you've had a couple of issues. You're dealing with a little bit of a cold, so if you see Martin taking some drinks and coughing,
well, that's why I keep taking sips, because I'm trying to fight off a cold. Myself, Martin. So you'll have to forgive me.
Yeah. It's either this or NyQuil, and I can't go to sleep halfway through the show. So
I'm taking some of my old elk cough medicine now.
That's right.
Because I'm an old elk.
My wife will keep bringing in, and I think she's going to put a little whiskey in mine too.
Oh, there you go. That's what you need. That's what you need.
There you go.
So you came out with Encyclopedia of Hell. How was it received by critics? Was it well received, or?
It was well received by critics, but nobody bought it for the first year.
Really?
What year was that when it came out?
2000. I don't.
Roughly
2010, 2000.
Okay.
Yep.
So about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'd sold the film rights 2 years before that.
Okay.
So it just was a strange, odd, off the rails type of a story behind how it got made,
Yeah. And then what made it turn the corner that it started selling and getting noticed?
I guess it's the typical thing about, what's the word for it, where something gains ground by itself?
Oh,
whatever
critical mass.
Yeah, gains some kind of
just kind of like a groundswell support,
Right.
Certain areas starts to get popular, and then it just kind of catches on with the populace on its own, and just, it's like a snowball. It starts to build.
But that didn't cause that didn't cause Warner Brothers to take a second look at it and go, maybe now's the time to make this movie.
Well, I ended up with, because on my contract with the publisher, Adam had said, look, you're going to have to do a Twitter thing. You're going to have to do a Facebook page. And I hate all that shit.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to do that stuff.
Yeah.
But of course it's valuable. And so I just made it fun, so.
Right.
So the Facebook page ended up being very fun. And I ended up with 170, almost 200 100,000 fans of the book
Oh, wow.
just by itself. And we had one of the things happened. They started sending, when they get the book in the mail,
Mm-hmm.
they would take a picture of themselves with the book dressed in weird fucking shit. And so
Dressed
I mean,
as
it was
demons
so
and
funny.
shit.
And then there were like over 560 or so pictures so far from around the
Wow.
world of people that it became a thing. So now there's like the evil reader photos is one of the things on the
Yep.
Facebook page. Look up the
Scott's looking it up right now. He's on the page right now.
Encyclopedia of Hell Facebook page. And
Yep. He's on it right now.
so look under photos under the thing where it says the evil reader photos, and then you'll see all those
Evil
pictures
Right
from
there.
around
photo
the
album.
world.
Yep.
Holy shit.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Hey, it's Bobby. Bobby Slayton.
Oh, Bobby Slayton. Is that Jess Gershon?
Oh, Bobcat.
Bobcat.
I love this book.
Oh
Well, as
my
you know,
God,
Bob
that's
and I wrote
awesome.
a lot of shit together. We wrote a bunch of specials together. We wrote a
Yeah.
movie together for Warner for United Artists.
That's Ace's hero.
That's my hero, man. I love
Oh my
Bobcat.
God, he's like my favorite comedy writer, and he's the nicest guy in the world. He helped me out so hugely, and
I
his
think that-
movies are the best movies, comedy movies. They're my personal favorites.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I told you the last time, he was one of the first, one of the first impressions I learned how to do. And one of the first things I put in my act. And then I got to open for him probably about 15 years ago. And by then he had given up that whole, loud
right.
guy persona. He was trying to get away from that. And so I was opening up for him and I cut that whole part out of my set. I totally pushed out because I'm talking to him backstage and he's so soft spoken.
I know, gentlest fucking dude
I
ever.
love doing it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to look like such an asshole if I do his loud guy character
And
before
he's-
him. And then all of a sudden I got the audience yelling out, shit for him to do. Like,
Oh,
Police Academy, do it.
Yeah.
Ace, you know what?
So-
You're exactly right. He got that a lot. Actually, it was rough for him initially.
Oh, I'm
because
sure.
he needed to fucking drop the character. He and I worked together for a long time,
Yeah.
and I had urged him to drop it too because he's one of the funniest joke writers. He's one of those imaginative guys. So his movies now that he writes and directs
Yeah. Yeah.
are the best. It's the best shit. It's my favorite movies. So it's just amazing. My friend turned out to be this quality comedy filmmaker that's
Yeah.
deep stories. Some of them I'm like, I'm reading the script
Yeah.
and I call up Bob. How did you? And I'm sobbing at
Yeah.
the end of the script. And how did you do
And
this?
imagine if he wasn't able to get out from under that character he created, he would never have been able to show people that other side.
Exactly
We
right.
were talking a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know if you know Jackie Flynn.
Fuck yeah, he's the
Remember
greatest guy
Jackie?
ever.
Yeah.
Talk
So,
to Jackie about UFOs sometime.
oh, really?
Yeah.
So
Not kidding. Yeah.
we had Jackie on about a month ago and he was telling us about his show Louder Milk. And I
Yeah.
was watching Louder Milk. I binge watched it
I
a
love
couple of
that
weeks
show.
ago.
Me too. It's great.
And I was saying how, Brian Regan is known for being the goofy guy and funny and silly. And
Yeah.
you know what? Every time, especially in the last season
Yeah.
of Louder Milk,
Yeah.
every time he came on, he made me cry.
Oh,
I
man.
felt his character
Oh,
in
man.
that series
Yeah.
is so flawed and
Yeah.
so like vulnerable that he'd start filling up and I'm bawling my fucking eyes out.
It came across so authentic
Genuine, yeah.
and genuine.
And I
It's
think a lot
amazing
of-
when that happens. Well, that's a great example. Another great, that's a really good example. Another unexpected example is Ricky Gervais's series Afterlife.
Oh my God. Yes.
I haven't
I'm
seen it,
sobbing
but
like a
I've heard
fucking
about it.
baby. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. And you don't expect that from someone like him.
No, same as with Brian Lee.
Yeah, that one was like, it's so dark, but at the same time, it just pulls on your heart.
Yeah.
You just feel for this guy.
Well, it's a work of genius. I recommend everyone seeing that. It's on Netflix, I think.
Yeah,
Is it? Okay.
it's really, really good.
But
really
that's
good.
but that's the thing. I think a lot of comedians get pigeonholed into one thing and they're not able to show their range. I mean, you go back even to Jim Carrey, you know, in the beginning, he was silly. He was jumping around. He was doing the facial expressions and impressions and stuff. And then all of a sudden he does Truman Show and people are like, holy shit, this guy can act.
Robin Williams said it best one
Yeah.
time, is that he feels comedians could sometimes make the greatest actors because comedians are fearless. Because when you're on stage and you're performing by yourself as a comedian, you got to do whatever it takes.
Oh my
You
God.
can't have any fear whatsoever. And if you take that approach to acting, because a lot of actors aren't willing to take the same risks that a comedian are willing to take.
Because acting is all about making choices, and we as comedians have to make choices every time.
And you got to do it in the
stage,
moment.
right? You're on stage doing your material, and you might have to make a choice that, I usually deliver it this way, but I know this joke that I delivered that same way didn't work 5 minutes ago.
Exactly.
I'm going to deliver it a different way. I'm going to make a different choice, right?
That's right.
You're editing constantly.
Yeah.
And direct,
and that's why I think comedians don't get they get a bad rap in acting, but they actually are really good actors.
Ray Romano's played some very serious roles more recently and done very, very.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm fucking serious. How can you not take me serious? Come on.
But he was
ridiculous.
He was in The Irishman. He was in Vinyl on HBO.
What was that Netflix movie that he came out with where he's with his friend who's dying of cancer and they go on the road trip and he's like older than the other guy. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a serious, it was a serious movie.
Yeah. So
another really good example is Kevin Pollak. Kevin Pollak, I did like that HBO special. I wrote and produced that with him, and he's one of the funniest, doesn't get credit for this part of his talent, which is he's one of the best physical comedians ever. His movements of his body, he's just so fucking funny.
Yeah.
And he became a tremendous dramatic actor, doing character roles, but very moving shit, and also one of the nicest guys in Hollywood, by the way.
Really. I've always been a huge fan of his. I think he's a great impressionist. Yep. He's a good stand-up. But yeah, you see him in even some of the supporting roles he did, like in A Few Good Men.
Yeah.
When he was in that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, End of Days, which is not a great movie, but his part was really good because he was this broken, character of a guy, and he played it really, really well. So yeah, I agree with you, Martin.
Here's an example of what a great guy he is. Because I ended up writing a bunch of HBO hour specials for comedians, right?
Really?
Yeah.
So as head writer for him, I mean, I lucked out because I was the piano player in Boston. And when all those guys came out, like Goldthwait and all those guys, I was submitting jokes to them. And I was getting work out here. And so then when we met, I would be constantly like saying, hey, you should do a special and blah, blah, blah. And so the ideas hatched really quickly because I was getting more savvy to how you actually get a spine of a show to build up. And so Goldthwait had me do his stuff, and Kevin Meaney had me. I mean, these were all our specials.
Yeah, right.
And so when Pollak asked me, we were talking, and I knew Kevin from way back in 1980 in the San Francisco comedy competition. And he said, hey, would you like to be head writer for my HBO
special?
Hour? Because those two that you did were great. And I heard that you were really good at it. So here's what a great guy he is. I said, yeah, but I don't know. How should we do it? He said, here's what we should do. Whatever Kevin Meaney paid you for that, whatever agreement you guys made, I'll top it. That's what a great guy he is,
Wow.
I mean, because I was like,
and then Kevin Meaney said, I don't care.
I don't care. If the jokes don't go over, I don't care.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you in a very serious, but
that's done with love.
I can't help. I love Kevin Meaney. Exactly.
Oh my God,
can't
I
help
miss him
it
so much. I miss him every day.
Oh my
God.
God.
Kevin Meaney and I went over. I got a phone call from Kevin, and he said, "Hey, Martin, you want to?" Because when he was in Boston, he took over my room. We called our place the Barracks. My roommates were Lenny Clark and
Barry
Barry Nightcrewd. And so Kevin and I became friends, and when I was in San Francisco, then I would stay with him. And so so he and I became great friends, and I started writing stand-up stuff for him and just submitting it for him. He's the only guy that would do my jokes word for word.
Really? Everyone else would change them, but he would do them word for word.
Of course, because I'm learning. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So but for him, he could make jokes work because he also was doing a satire of a stand-up act.
Right.
He was doing stand-up by doing bad jokes and then saying, I don't care. But
yeah, right.
But
Hi, my name is Kevin Meaney, my cousin Eenie Meaney, and my brother's Miney and Mo.
I don't care. Exactly. And plus, he would wear the red fucking
bow tie
and all that shit. He was a satire of an act. And
he
plus,
was amazing.
Not only was a satire of an act, but it was actually, he was the funniest comedian I think I've ever seen. So he calls me up and he says, hey, do you want to be head writer for the show for Comedy Central? I said, what is it? I'd love to work with you. And he said, we have to go to London tomorrow.
Okay.
It actually was next week. He said, we have to go to London next week. You have to go in to meet Comedy Central tomorrow. I told him about you and that I wanted you. So so he and I ended up in London. We had a flat in Mayfair for 6 months, I guess. When he and I wrote all the shows, and it ended up, it was a stand-up show, but he did a sketch in the beginning.
Yep.
And that's what he and I would write. And I probably told you about that before because it was one of the most fun experiences. But at any rate, we ended up, we lucked out because it ended up, it won an ACE award for the best variety show, you know?
Wow.
And working with Kevin was the most fun of all. And then there were 13 shows, and by the 10th show, we fucking hated each other.
Right. I'm done with you.
We had to come up with something else. I said, Kevin, fuck this show. I can't even think. My brain is totally scrambled. It was, you know what a TV show is like? It's unbelievably relentless.
Yeah.
And plus, I was doing music.
No, we don't know what a TV show is like because we're sitting in a basement in Rhode Island.
I do. I watch TV all the time.
Yeah, I watch it, but I don't work on it.
Sure, rub that in, Martin.
Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
Rub that in.
Welcome to Martin Olson's last episode on Behind the Funny. I'm kidding.
Welcome to the Nut Kicker episode.
Yeah, right. Oh, you guys know what it's like being on a TV show, right?
You guys get it, right?
Anybody who's aware of, I mean, when you watch 30 Rock, or even when you watched as a kid, because I'm fucking old, when I would watch the Dick Van Dyke Show, that was what made me want to be a comedy writer.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of pressure going on.
Yes. Yeah. No, we've had other writers on too before. And that's what we've said. Like, it's funny. I'll sit there and I'll watch a TV show and they'll deliver a line and I'll say the next line before it's even written. I'm like, I could do this shit. But you know what? Yeah. But if I'm sitting in a fucking room and it's 5 p.m. and Conan is about to go on at 7:30 and I haven't written the last monologue joke and I'm scrambling my brains, I don't know if I could do it.
Well,
I really don't.
When we had Brian Kiley
on,
and
he was one of the greatest writers, comedy writers.
Oh, absolutely.
And we're so glad. I mean, he was literally, we interviewed him the week before Conan was ending, and we were like, so this podcast is also a job interview for Brian Kiley. If there's any executive producers looking for writers right now, and luckily, I honestly, I think maybe one of the producers of Ellen was listening because he ended up on the Ellen show. So we're very happy for Brian Kiley.
Yes, but when he's saying that they, each guy writes like 100 jokes in a day.
Yeah,
I'm like 100 jokes in a day.
I haven't written 100 jokes in 32 years.
I was just gonna say.
You know what? I mean, he's a genius joke writer, one of the greatest.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
But when he says, I mean, it's hyperbole because when you write 100, you have to write tons and tons of shit, but only about
to get the good stuff.
Those will be ones you'd submit.
Right.
That's so bad, but though you need to write those to get to the good ones.
Right.
No, I get it. Out of 100, they're not all going to be gold. There's going to be a few turds in a punch bowl there, but you gotta get them all out.
There's going to be a few Ovaltine jokes.
one of the
But-
most helpful things for writing that I came across was John Swartzwelder, who wrote 59 of the best Simpsons episodes.
Uh-huh.
He had some writer's advice, and he also writes the funniest comedy novels that I've ever read. Oh, in fact, one of them is in that list of books that you
Oh,
read.
really?
It's called "The Time Machine Did It."
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
satire of a like a detective novel. But he wrote this thing. He said, "Yeah, my advice for writing is this," because he wrote so many episodes that were the best ones.
Right.
He said, "The worst thing about writing is writing." He says, "It sucks. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Writing, you have to write a half-hour script. It's 40 pages, and it sucks, and it's so impossible to do." He said, but rewriting them is a breeze.
easy.
No problem.
Right.
It's easy. It's no problem at all because you have the script done. The structure is there. It's all done. He says, so what I do, and I would recommend everyone to do this if you're on the same wavelength as me, he
Mhm.
said, write the first draft, figure it out, have a little outline.
Just write it.
Then write the first draft as fast as you possibly can, just in one day or a day and a half, just all straight through.
Right.
He said, then the next morning, when you wake up, you have a finished script in front of you where all the hard work was. He said, it's like a crappy elf came in at night.
Yep.
He wrote a really crappy draft.
And
but
left you this.
Oh my God. And so
Yeah.
he said it with a little tip of his crappy hat, he goes out and you have a finished script, even though it sucks. He said, then I'm able to do the writing. And that I've used that advice so much, especially with screenplays. It's it's words of gold and wisdom for comedy writing.
It totally makes sense because
Kind of a stream of consciousness writing.
I know that if I look at something, it's easy to look at a joke or a concept and go, oh, I would have taken it here. Or why didn't I think of this?
Yeah.
And then that's punching it up. That's why I guess they have people who they hire to punch up scripts, because once you get that skeleton of the script written, it's easier to rewrite.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, because I come up with an idea for a joke and I'll write it down or I'll record it in my phone, but I really do my best working on it live on stage in front of the audience. I then take that concept and I kind of talk it through and work through it.
Or you say it to
the
someone
crowd
else.
There. I bounce ideas off of you or something like that. But just sitting by myself doing it, I don't know if it's a lack of confidence or what it is, but I'm sitting there saying, I'm not sure if it's funny or if I got the wording just right until I do it in front of people.
Dude, I know what you're talking about for sure. I mean, there are certain times when you have comedy gold, and you know what that is when suddenly you're fucking howling laughing at your own gag. It's like, it's undeniable that, oh God, how did I come up with that? That's fucking perfect. And that happens.
Yes.
Not that if you do it every day, it happens quite often, actually.
Right.
But other times you say, wait a minute, this is like a pivotal joke that I need right in the story of the blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if that's funny. Is that funny? But so it's true. You don't know.
Right.
But there's been once in 20 years, Martin, years, I'm driving along and an idea pops in my head and I start saying it out loud in the car and I am busting out laughing. I am cracking up. I'm like, this is my closer. It's already my closing joke. This is the funniest thing I've ever come up with. Ever. This is the end of my album, the end of my HBO special. This is the greatest thing I've ever thought of. I never could make it work live in front of an audience ever. Only joke I've ever had that problem with. I never could put it together. I never could. To me, it was the funniest thing I could ever think of. I tried it probably 30 times, no lie. And I usually will try something 6 times, 7 times. And if I'm getting laughs the last 2 or 3, then I know I got something there and I'll keep working at it. This never worked one time.
How funny, man.
Never worked once.
That moment of joy when you come up with the funniest
gem,
that's like usually unbeatable. But I have a suggestion for you.
That was the only time that ever happened.
Even though that idea is now stale because you've tried it so many times and it hasn't worked, you happen to have in town in Boston one of the best joke mechanics, and that's Mike McDonald.
Oh, I love it.
Run that past him. He's a fucking savant with joke.
Yeah, he is.
Mike McDonald, a side story. We keep going off on these diversions. I the first time I worked with him, and Mike, I wasn't sure how to take him,
because Mike's a huge ball buster.
Yes, he is.
And if you don't know him, you
just
don't
think
know
he's a
how to take
Yeah,
him. You're like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, right.
So I go up, and it's the first time he's ever seen my act, and I get off, and and there's one joke I did that he says to me, "Hey, I got an idea for you. Try this line at the end of that."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, cool. Thank you, Mike." So the second show that night, we were at the Comedy Connection Providence. I do the joke, and I put the line he said at the end of it, and it killed. It worked great.
Isn't he fucking amazing?
Oh, he
is.
spotted, he picked up on it, spotted it, and after the second show, I'm like, Mike, great line. Thank you so much for the line. He goes, no problem. You owe me one. I said, you got it. Now, 6 months later, we're at the Comedy Connection Christmas party in Boston, and he just walks up to me out of the blue. He goes, you got a line for me?
He'll never forget it.
I go, excuse me? He goes, I gave you that great line 6 months ago. Where's my line? And I still don't know Mike very well, so I don't know how to take that. And so I'm like,
I owe this guy something.
I'm only like 3 or 4 years in at this point, and he's one of these guys, that you're looking up to. And I'm like, yeah, anything I can offer you is going to be shit at this point. And everything. And he goes, I'm just busting your balls. And I've been friends with him ever since.
Yeah,
that's it. He's the nicest goddamn guy in the world. And
he's great. He's great.
But he likes to fuck with you. And
he does.
The fact that he went up to you, Scott, that meant he liked you.
Oh, I know. I know that now. You didn't know that then.
Yeah,
I know that. I know
That's
that.
the thing.
I know that
Yeah,
now because I watch him do that now when I work with him, and I just laugh my ass off.
He messes with people because the first time I remember him coming up to me and going, "Hey, Ace, I do a joke like this, and I notice you do a joke like this," and I was like, but I think he respected me for this because I go, Mike, you do it this way. I do it this way. I take it in a totally different direction. Are you really telling me not to do this joke?
No,
because we talk about the same person? And he was like, no, that's all right. Like, I don't know, a couple of years later, he goes, hey, Ace, I got a question for you. You do this joke. And I was wondering if you minded if I took it in a different direction and did this. I go, is Mike McDonald's asking me if it's okay to do something? Oh my God. I found that sometimes there are people like that they're testing you. Yeah. And if you cower to them, they're never going to respect you. But if you stand up to them, it's a test. They don't not like you. They're testing you, and if you stand up to them, they're like, "All right, I respect you."
Fast forward 18 years after the first time I worked with Mike, year and a half ago, this community theater near where I live that I put on shows all the time. They lost their heating system, and we were going to do a fundraiser for them. And I posted something about it on Facebook, and Mike goes, "Hey, you want me to come down and do a spot?" And I'm like,
"I love it."
I go, Mike, it's kind of a long drive and everything for you, and guys are volunteering. I wouldn't want to ask you to do that. He goes, no, I'll come down. And he came down and did 20 minutes.
I love it. Yeah,
right. That's the type of guy that he is.
I love Mike.
Hey, one more thing about Mike was extraordinary.
Yeah.
He was the best one because remember, this is the first days of any fucking comedy in Boston at all. The Comedy Connection. We didn't know what we were doing. We had no idea how to get press or anything.
Right.
But the press sought us out because we started getting people in, and the word spread. And they asked us all these questions. The comedians to come up with something funny while they're answering questions about how did you get started at the club and how did you learn your material, blah, blah. And Mike McDonald, right from the beginning, had these fucking gems of sound bites. He was so fucking good with the press,
like one-liners that they could use as a headline or a quote.
Ace, exactly. So he knew that instinctively of what those things were. He would make a good copywriter, for example. A writer of ads and shit.
Yeah.
And so they would always. I can't tell you how many times his lines they used to lead with and stuff like that. He just has a talent like that. He's very interesting, smart guy.
He's very smart. He's very smart.
Well, listen, we kind of got off track, and I want to get us back on track because we started talking about his original book, But we haven't talked about
Hey,
the
we're,
new book.
we're hanging out having a beer with
I
Martin
know,
over
I
here.
know,
So,
I-
this
No,
is
I'm
kinda
not
cool.
rushing it either. I just want to make sure we get to talk about the new
No,
book.
definitely.
So the Encyclopedia of Hell, the concept of it was what? What was the Encyclopedia of Hell before we get into the Conquest of Heaven?
Well, first I wanted to write a book in my imaginary spare time
Mhm.
because I was getting too frustrated.
Yeah, we all have that, right? Imaginary spare time.
Oh my God! So, and writing a book, forget it. How do you write a book? So, I wanted to write the funny. Here's the thing. I knew it was impossible for me to write a really funny book. So I said, well, fuck that. Let me try to write the funniest book I've in the world. Let me try to write the funniest book. Preposterous thing.
Let me reach for here, and if it's down here, it's still going to be fucking funny, right?
Yes, exactly. So,
Right.
so I said, well, how do I do that? And then wait a minute, if I do it from the voice of the devil, then I have a sensibility about how that could be the funniest shit.
Right.
Because then he could literally say anything, everything that's wrong,
Mhm.
he could say it because all bets would be off. So the premise of the book was that hell's overcrowded. It's just a simple fucking joke premise.
Yeah.
Hell's overcrowded, so they need more space. So they're going to take over Earth and use humans as for the demons' foodstuffs for the battle. So they're just going to eat everybody. End of story.
Yep.
So
It's a love story.
That's exactly what happens in the book. And so in the meanwhile, because humans were incomprehensible to demons,
Mhm.
humans were like 3D characters and with all these weird insanities, and demons are very military and just very straight. And so they didn't understand humanity at all. So Satan, who understands, because he created all the
Everything.
demons out of his mind,
Right.
he wrote an invasion manual that explained Earth, all aspects of Earth, A to Z, which is what the Encyclopedia of Hell is,
Right. Okay.
about humanity. And
So it was like a handbook for the demons to follow to
Exactly.
understand what it was going to be like. Like, here's how to go in and conquer Earth.
well, mainly it was just about the nicest, because Satan is like a genius of evil. So he would write about what's human love, what is loneliness. You know, the whole thing is 2,000 jokes
Right.
written by Satan, because he said at the beginning, I want this to be instructive, but also that it's fun, that you also are amused by it.
Right.
So anyway, that was that book, and they did eat all the humans. And the second book is where Satan doesn't remember where he came from. You know, he created hell and all the demons, but he just was in a black hole. That's all he remembers as far back. He doesn't know how he got there.
He doesn't remember being cast out of heaven.
There's nothing biblical in
Right.
books.
Okay.
Zero biblical stuff. It's just about, in fact, hell, we'll find out later, heaven in the second book, and hell, earth, and heaven all are on the same orb, the exact same planet, separated by eons and eons of unthinkable time. It's the same place.
Right. Oh, okay.
Wow.
So hell, the orb of hell evolves into earth, and that evolves into heaven.
Oh.
So the trick of it is that the demons are time travelers, because in hell it's all from enchantments. It's nothing to do with science. Is like earth science is idiotic, because you always have to have 2 + 2 is 4. That's ridiculous. So if you want to have enchantments, you can, to do a specific amazing thing, you can, within this dimension that you're creating with an enchantment, make 2 and 2 = 5. So you could then create anything. You know, you can do anything at all. That's what would be the nature of magic and black magic.
Yeah.
So in the second book, Satan, who doesn't remember where he came from, hears after intercourse with Earth that there's a God, or there's some hypothetical creator,
Other being.
and so then the unthinkable comes into Satan's mind, that he's a created being, which is unacceptable, because he has to be the big cheese. He has to be
Right.
the ruler. So in the second book, Satan is taking this seriously because he realizes his limitation, which is he doesn't remember where he came from.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to go use enchantments to seek out this hypothetical God, see if he exists, and if he does, kill him and take over the whole thing.
Yep.
So that's the plot of the second book.
Wow. But it looks at things in a funny way.
I hope so.
According to that review, it's the
It's not
funniest
a-
fucking book of all time. So
It's not a
I hope
book
so.
of doom. I mean, I don't know, but that guy, maybe he wrote it in an insane asylum. I don't know. So
I was going to say, you didn't describe it in a very humorous way right there.
No.
I get caught up in the storytelling aspects of it. So the storytelling is what comes first, and then the gags come second. It's just like Schwartzwelder principle. You do the shitty draft first, and then you make it funny.
No, but it's
So the shitty
it's an
draft-
interesting storyline to it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a different way to kind of approach the whole heaven and hell concept, you
Right.
know, for people.
That was the goal.
Yeah. No,
So
I
you
like that.
Yeah, but you started with the shittiness of Paradise Lost and then brought in the office on LSD. That's what made it funny.
It's pretty out there, man.
That's awesome though.
No, I like that because it
I love how he's drinking whiskey out of a Mickey Mouse cup.
Actually, I'm drinking.
Is it beer?
I'm
What is
drinking
that?
stout, some porter.
nice.
Oh, Founders. Yes, I've had
Oh my
Founders
God.
Porter.
Hey
love
kids, don't look in the cup.
Yeah, no. Move along, kids. Nothing to see here.
This stuff is so delicious.
Oh, yeah, Founders Porter. I have
So
some
anyway,
in the magical
that's-
beer fridge.
Oh my God! So that's the answer to what the two books are about, and of
Yep.
course they're satire. So they're very extreme. A lot of fucked up things happen in the book.
Yeah. But the fact that you're telling it from the devil's point of view, it's almost like when you build a character. I'm trying to. I know. I'm,
Well, he's almost created like an anti-hero out of Satan.
right. But yeah, because the character is saying it, it's okay.
Yeah.
If it was Martin saying it, people would be up in arms. But because it's the devil saying it, it's
That's right.
okay because
It's
it's
like
expected.
It's like an actor who plays a character, and like even
Right.
in Shakespeare, Hamlet. I'm a guy who lets murders happen and is just indecisive. Shakespeare is just being that guy and allowing this stuff to happen, and it's acceptable because he has a mask on of that character.
Right.
Because he's a character, so he can be flawed. We
Yeah.
can't be flawed in real life. Martin Olson can't be flawed, but the devil can be. So
Well, no,
It's
we
a
can
vehicle.
be flawed. We just can't show it.
no, we can't show it or we'll be ostracized.
We just can't show it.
Right. Especially with the
That is
generation.
interesting as hell. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah,
That
me
is
too.
going to be
Well,
interesting
thanks.
as hell.
I'm. You know what? It's so funny. So I reread I'm always insecure. I mean, everybody's insecure about your work, right? So
Absolutely.
So 2 nights ago, and it's been a while since I've reread it. I read the second half of it,
Mhm.
and I was so happy because it actually was good.
Yeah, you still enjoyed it. You know what I love, Martin?
I was so
How-
relieved.
That's a nice feeling, isn't it? When you
Yeah.
when you go over your own work
Oh my God.
and you have that self-doubt about it, and then
Mm.
you go through it and you're like, you know what? That's good.
All right.
I'm happy with that.
I got to ask you a question. How
Yeah.
long have you been living on the West Coast?
Since 1980.
I love that you've been there for 41 years
Yeah.
and you still say half.
Yeah, I'm a
Twice he
Boston-
said
I'm a
it.
Boston
Yeah,
boy.
twice he
Yeah,
said
I
it.
wasn't gonna point it out, but it was perfect.
I'm a Boston boy. For
I
sure,
love
yeah.
it. You could definitely not lose that. That is awesome.
That was perfect.
Well, the fun is I ended up, I mean, because we started the Boston comedy scene.
Yeah.
All those guys were all just ragtag idiots getting together, and we all moved out to Los Angeles in a kind of a hectic, chaotic way, and all
Yeah.
then bonded together again out here.
So like who are you still with? Like obviously we mentioned Sean Morey before. Are you still friends with Sean? Do you still see
Yeah.
him?
one of the
Yeah.
greatest guys that I know. I mean,
we had Sean on. We finally got him on a couple of months ago.
I was telling him
and
that.
it was so much, it was so amazing
That
to
was
be able
such a
to.
great full circle moment for us.
Yeah,
well, he's
because
a
we had.
modest guy, and
He is.
the core of the whole thing. And I'm sure you guys drew it out of him because I couldn't have been more explicit about how he created the whole scene.
And
Well,
he did not want to take any credit for it.
No,
He did not want to take any
and
credit.
the funny thing is, you and Paul Barkley
Yes.
both said
Yeah.
the same thing. I was there at the beginning, but Sean started it. And then Sean was like, yeah, but I wasn't around for the boom. I kind of lit the fuse and then left,
Well,
but
that's
he
accurate.
did.
That's accurate
right?
too, because when he goddamn left Ace,
Yeah.
he left after doing this, one of the funniest one-man shows I'd ever seen. And I was his piano player. I mean, I saw every fucking show.
Right.
And so when he left, it was a bummer. But the next thing that happened in 1 year, less than 1 year, he's on the Tonight Show.
Wow.
And nobody out there knew him.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the quality of his mind and his performances. Within a year, he's on the Tonight Show.
And he wouldn't even give himself credit for that because he said he got on the Tonight Show too early in his career. He wasn't ready for it.
Right.
And he doesn't feel he did well on the Tonight Show.
And we've heard every other comic talk about, oh my God, it was such a big deal if you got called over to the couch. If Johnny called you over to the couch.
He downplayed it.
He was like, nah, that was just if they had extra time. They called me over because they had extra time. I'm like, no.
He just was so humble and so downplayed everything and just
he's
a super
person I know. I mean, he's like unbelievable because comedians, you kidding me? Comedians are have to be bombastic and stuff like that.
We have to be ego filled, right?
Yeah. So he's interesting because in his first Tonight Show set, his closing bit was a reverse life cycle concept. And it was the most brilliant shit ever. Look up, you guys at home, look up Sean Morey on the Tonight Show of the last bit. It's the most brilliant thing ever. And it's been stolen by so many people.
Really? Well, and I know I've seen it because it's on YouTube.
I was going to say that I've heard that before, not necessarily from him, about aging backwards.
It was stolen from him. And
wow.
Many people. In fact, in a lot of So, believe me, I was there. And
I believe you 100%. I'm just saying that it's kind of funny you say that because I've heard that concept before.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, there are key beats in it that you need to have, and those were in some cases stolen word for word.
Wow. Now, Martin, you've done a lot of different things. Obviously, writing. You've been show producer. You've done different things.
Voice actor.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about your writing, but you've produced some pretty big shows before and worked with some pretty big people, and we've talked about it on your previous episode. Obviously the Phineas and Ferb thing is the only reason our kids are impressed when we have you on.
Exactly.
It's because of Phineas and Ferb. But
no Adventure Time.
Adventure Time,
Adventure Time
that too.
And your daughter. Yes, they love your daughter.
We were talking before the show tonight, and you mentioned Penn and Teller. That's a pretty big one as well.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Scott, I was the hugest fan, right? And I had an opportunity to, because I had been successful, you know what I mean? And I was feeling my oats a little bit. So I wasn't as nervous as I had been when I started. I felt like I actually, because you know what happens after you write a book or after you do a show or something like that, the next time you have a gig or you have to start a new book, you say, I don't know how to do this. How did I do that before? You know what I mean?
Right. It's almost like your mind is erased, right? On how to do stuff.
How did I do it before? So at this point, when I was a big fan of Penn and Teller, I got an opportunity to be flown to Vegas to meet with them because they were doing a new show.
Wow.
And so I flew out there, and it was through Juliet Blake, who was the producer of the Kevin Meaney show in London.
Mm-hmm.
And Juliet who's the most brilliant producer I ever worked with. She's now producing films, and I mean, so I just was so lucky.
Yep.
I go to Vegas and Penn and Teller, and I meet with them in this. I mean, they're both weird guys, but they're the funniest people, I mean, in the world. So
yeah,
because they're a lot like the sensibility I had writing the Hell book, because it's spoken by Satan.
Right.
And they're both outspoken atheists and very serious about shit.
Right. Yeah.
Except when they're not, of course. But
right.
they're the funniest motherfuckers ever. and so brilliant. I mean, I was intimidated.
Yeah.
So finally, Penn, because they're what do you call it when a cop has a thing with somebody who's a suspect? They're giving me a fifth degree.
Oh,
So
yeah.
wow.
Fifth degree. Yeah, yeah.
and they're fucking with me, you know.
Oh, third degree. Yeah.
And so finally, and so they both knew this at the beginning that they weren't going to hire me.
Yeah.
Because he said, now, you just had you have 2 kids now, and you have to move to Vegas. You have to be here and live here to do the show. We're going to do the show in Vegas. I said, I can't move here. I live there and with my family.
Right.
And so they knew that there was a fait accompli. So then, by the weirdest circumstances, I ended up being hired to write the show from LA with a whole LA team.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hired as producer of it. So of the show. So as a creative producer. So with another guy, me and him were the two, we shared all the duties. So we would fly to Vegas once a month and then tape 5 shows, 4 shows, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the craziest thing happened was I had, as a boy, I mean like when I'm 18, tried to be a comedy writer. And so I found out that both Rodney Dangerfield and Joan Rivers accepted outside writing. You mailed them
Jokes, right?
10 jokes a page,
and they'd pick them out and pay you whatever,
$50 a joke.
$50 a joke, right?
So Joan Rivers I never heard back from because honestly my jokes suck so bad, and so I didn't know how to do it.
Rodney was like, "Fuck it, I'll try it."
So Rodney, because let's say I think I sent him about 6 batches of jokes, and it's like 3 pages, 10 jokes a page, and so what he did every single time, he would scrawl on the bottom of the page, "Sorry, Marty," and then he'd send it back to me, right? So
just to let you know he didn't use it. Most people would just let him go. He's like, "Sorry, Marty."
You guys get this. So 20 years later, I get the job producing Penn and Teller's show in Vegas, and he's a guest.
Yep.
So he comes in with his wife, and I didn't know what to make of him. I knew that he was the world's greatest guy because everybody had told me that. All the comics who worked at his club and so on, they said he's the greatest guy.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, not intimidating, not any kind of fucking power tripping. He's just a wonderful, funny person.
Right.
And so he had an eye problem, and he had a big fucking eye patch. I said, "Hi, Rodney, I'm Martin." And then I said, "Hey, listen, when I was 18, I used to send you jokes, Marty Olson." And then he thought for a minute, and then I saw his recognition in his face, and he said, "Oh, sorry, Marty." He
That's awesome.
that I wrote the shittiest jokes ever.
Oh my
He
God.
was always nice. He always answered me back.
And he remembered it. Oh my God, that's awesome.
So he asked, and this is actually a story that has. He said, "Marty, my eye's all fucked up. Can you get me some pot?" I said, "Rodney, I can't get you pot." The producer of the show, I mean, you're putting me in a weird position. Am I being a jerk? He said, "Do what you can. You can see I have a physical condition."
Yes. It's a medical condition.
So I ask around. Nope, I don't. I'm not a drug guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
I love.
You're like, where do I even start? Who do I ask? You know. Yeah.
Plus, I'm doing this job. The hardest job in the world is being a producer for a live show. You have to track all this stuff, and I'm not particularly good at that. You know what I mean? I'm good at writing, but for producing and remembering shit, you can tell my memory is a little bit shot and overloaded sometimes. So I sort of just resignedly realized I can't make him happy and get him pot. I asked the crew guy who I was friends with, and they said, "Yeah, there's one guy, and I have to go over it. And I'm in the middle of production. I have to go to buy pot."
Go out stage door 7. Go behind the dumpster. There's a guy out there. He'll take care of you.
But I said, "Well, just give me a number," and no one could give me a number. Yeah, you'd have to look it up. I don't know, blah blah blah. So at any rate, so then in the midst of that, right when that happened, I get a phone call, and it's from John Schneider, one of my favorite people. He's a producer, and he's Rob Schneider's brother.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I had done a couple shows together. Excuse me. And he said, "Hey, Martin, Metallica is in the next room, and they're reading your book." I said, "What do you mean? How do you have my book?"
Oh my God.
He said, "Because our production company got sent it by Warner Brothers.
Yep.
We have it's the whole actual manuscript."
Yeah. Oh my
He
God.
said, "Metallica are smoking pot in the next room and drinking whiskey, and Lars has his shirt off. He's lying on the floor, and they're howling, laughing, reading your book."
And you're like, wait a minute, did you say they're smoking pot? I'm looking for pot.
Well, let's put a hold on that aspect of the story now. But you're very
all right,
You're
sorry.
very astute in your storytelling. So get this. I said, "Hey, John," because he didn't know where I was. "I'm in Vegas. I'm producing Penn and Teller's show at the Hilton, and it's a live show." He said, "Oh, okay, you're totally crazed." He said, "Wait a minute, you're in Vegas? I'll call you back." Okay, so then he hangs up, and I'm so busy. I mean, that was a weird call.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it gave me a little energy and confidence for sure. So because the Metallica's laughing at my book,
Right.
enough for him to call me. So the next day or the day after, it was showtime when we had to tape at like 6 o'clock or something. And so John Schneider calls me about an hour before we have to do the show.
Yep.
He says, "Dude, they're there waiting for you." I said, "What? What are you talking about?" "Metallica is at the Hilton waiting for you at a bar that they've
Rented.
sequestered off.
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
they want to meet you." I
Oh
said,
my
"What?"
God.
So I said, "Where are they?" And so I wrote it down quickly. I'm totally nervous, right? Because what you don't know is I don't even know who Metallica is. I'm an idiot. I'm literally a moron. I'd never go to concerts or anything. I'd like buy medieval music. I'm a total fucking.
You're like, hey, which one of you guys plays the lute?
Who's the triangle player?
So John gives me directions to where to go in the Hilton to find this sequestered off bar that that they asked them to close until they met me.
Oh my God.
So I write down the directions, and I'm thinking, who? Metallica. So I call my wife. She says, "Go downstairs," because this is before cell phones.
Yeah.
He says, "Go down," and like a year before cell phones, go down to the computer and look up Metallica so you can look up their faces and just read about them. And she said, "Whatever you do, don't mention about your stupid idea that all music and shit should be free."
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Because I'm a fan of
this was in the throes of the Napster,
Especially to Lars.
Lars,
Especially to Lars.
Yeah, you know.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Because I'm a big fan of Charles Ives, and he said, "No, all copyrights for music, fuck that. It should all be free." So,
dude, that's totally not fair.
That's not right.
That's not right, Martin.
So at any rate, my wife was funny about that, and I rushed downstairs to the banks of computers that the production had there underneath the theater.
Yeah.
And I looked up their faces and what they did. Who were they?
Yeah.
Because I'm an idiot.
This guy plays guitar. This guy plays bass. Yeah, right.
And so then luckily I didn't misplace the directions. I scribbled down.
Yeah.
And I run like a fucking little kid crazily through the maze of the gigantic Hilton casino hotel. and then and I'm telling you, it's a long way. It seems like you're running for a mile because I have to get back. I don't have any time.
Yeah.
But I can't not see Metallica who are waiting for me. Right. So I finally go, there's a curtained off bar, and there's this big giant, like a biker type guy there. And I say, "Hey, I'm Martin Olson. Is this the right place?" He says, "Yeah, they're waiting for you."
Oh my God.
So he pulls the black curtain back, and I walk into the empty bar, and there's Lars and Kirk and they have set up on the bar 3 rows of 6 shots each. So
God.
I say, hey, I'm Martin's sister, you know, and they both, well, Lars hugged me. He said, that's the funniest book I've ever read. We just want to have a shot with you and talk about that a little bit.
Oh
And
my God.
Kirk shook hands, and he had the most gigantic hands. It was like Bill Cosby hands. And so they asked me about the book, and I was nervous because I was being a fraud. I didn't know their music or anything.
Right. Yeah. You're like,
and I'm just a dummy. I just don't know that.
I know
shit.
you guys are big, but I don't know why.
I can't say that.
Yeah, right.
It's a fucking thing. It wouldn't be understandable, because if I was them, I would hate me instantly if I didn't know who they were.
Yeah,
The
right.
biggest band in the world. So, they're asking me about the book, and we're howling, laughing. I mean, they were so funny and so gracious, and so,
They were genuine.
Like,
they were genuine
Oh my-
fans of the book, right?
oh my God! It was like a weird heavenly dream.
Yeah.
So we're talking. So and while we're talking, we had to do the 3 shots together, all 6 shots.
Oh my
So,
God.
and I'm thinking, I got to get back, and I have to produce the show. We were on in an hour.
Oh my God.
And I have to drink 6 shots.
Oh my
jeez.
God.
So I fucking did it. And so I said, listen, can I get a quote from you guys for the book? I mean, he said, of course you can. So Lars gave me a quote for the book cover,
Yep.
which is which made it to the cover.
To the cover.
And then we say our goodbyes, because it was a laugh fest. The whole thing was, they were super funny,
Hilarious. Yeah.
super fucking funny.
They're just
And the
down
nice-
to earth guys.
Oh my God, most gracious guys. I mean, regardless of all band conflicts and shit like that, because I saw
Yeah.
that movie with the psychiatrist and all that.
Oh,
crazy
yeah, yeah.
But the nicest guys ever. I mean, to do that, to seek out a writer.
Right.
I mean,
That
come
they
on.
just enjoyed just to bring
Yeah.
them in. Wow.
And so I was shit-faced after the 6 shots, and then they both hugged me and shook hands. And when Kirk shook hands with me last, and when he shook hands with me, I told you, gigantic hands.
Really?
Asked something to me, and it was like a giant fucking spliff. I mean, a giant,
Oh my God.
like a joke-sized spliff.
Right. It was like from the one from History of the World Part 1.
Oh,
Roman Empire.
when they had it on the back of the wagon.
Mighty joint.
All right,
Rolling papyrus.
so I'm drunk. I'm holding this. So I rush out, and I couldn't even find my way back, because it's like a maze.
Right.
And I get up there, and I go into the back where I have to talk to each of the guests. And then I see Rodney, and then it struck me. And I walked up, I said, Rodney, compliments of Metallica. And I gave this giant
Holy
fucking
shit.
joint. And his eyes lit up. Oh, he had the patch off. His eyes lit up, and he hugged me, and he says, Marty, you're the greatest.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Holy shit. Not only did you get a joint for Rodney Dangerfield, but you got it from fucking Metallica.
How much better does it get than that?
That's the greatest story ever told on this podcast.
It was surreal. I mean, it was totally
that's
surreal.
making
Plus,
the end
I'm
of the year
nervous,
real.
and I'm an idiot. I don't even know who they are. And Rodney knows I'm a shitty joke writer since I'm a kid, but he was so sweet
Right.
to me. And so at any rate,
appreciated the big
So
spliff.
as a recap, a guy who thought you were a shitty joke writer got a joint from you that was given to you by a band that you had no idea who they were,
And they're the biggest band in the world.
who was
What a
happened to be
fucking story.
who happened to be the biggest band in the
Yeah.
world. Okay, just to summarize.
Yeah, right. Our friend Robin just said it really is one of the best stories ever.
You are correct, Robin.
Yes,
you are
that will
correct.
make the that
That is
story
an
will make the end
amazing
of the year
story.
show.
Yes, definitely. Oh my God, Martin, thank you for sharing that. And
well,
and
that was a big experience for me, because I was very nervous producing a show, because it's so hectic and crazy.
Yeah.
And plus, to have something like that go down where I'm so insecure about being a jerk, because I don't know who they are.
Right,
And
right.
plus, Rodney knows that I sent him shitty jokes when I was 18. And
You
so,
totally redeemed yourself on
Yeah.
two different levels because they loved you and he loved you.
Yeah, they loved your book. He loved you for bringing
oh
him
my
this clip.
God, you just made me realize something I never put together until this moment. That joke writing process that I was bad at when I started with Rodney,
Mhm.
I was serious. I wanted to be able to write jokes. I just sucked at the time, right?
Right.
I continued on. And that's how because of that just persistence, I was able to write the 2,000 jokes 20 years later in the Encyclopedia of Hell.
Encyclopedia of Hell.
That Metallica loved.
Wow.
There
I
you
never
go.
put that together. So it's a weird, like, little circle.
Yeah, I was going to say another
You just
full
had
circle
an
moment.
epiphany. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The fact that you were writing bad jokes for Rodney made
Yeah.
you get better, and
That's
so
right.
better that you wrote 2,000 jokes to make a book that Metallica loved. And then in the same night, you got to see both of them
That's right.
and get a mighty joint.
In a weird way, Rodney actually encouraged you by responding, even though
Exactly.
he didn't use them. He acknowledged that you were writing
He
him.
made you a better
And-
writer for him.
You know,
Oh
because
my
he
God.
could have
To
just ignored
eventually-
it. He could have just not acknowledged
Wait,
it.
he made him a better writer for him to eventually get Rodney better pot that night.
Right, Rodney was like, "Hey, this kid's gonna get me pot someday. I
That's
gotta write him back. He's
And the
gonna
only way
he's gonna score
was-
me a joint
it was
someday."
almost like a time
I tell
machine.
ya.
It was like a time machine future telling thing. Rodney was like, "Hey, I'm not gonna get a great joint 20 years later unless I teach this kid how to write jokes." Because Metallica won't give him the joint. It's a fucking.
I don't even know who
metaphysical-
Metallica is, but they're gonna give
Yeah,
me a joint.
exactly. Oh my God. Our friend Robin said it's like 6 degrees of Martin Olson.
Yes, we just played 6 degrees of Martin Olson.
That's the name of this episode.
Yep,
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. There it is. Robin, you just named the episode.
Oh, man.
What a great story
That
that
was
is.
so much
Martin.
fun,
That's an
man.
amazing
It
story.
was magical. I mean, how could that possibly happen?
So,
That's right.
so those guys love the Encyclopedia. Hell, you
Yeah.
got to think they're going to read the new book.
I
Yeah,
hope
have you
so.
sent them? Have you sent them a copy of the new
You
book?
definitely should send Lars a
No,
copy of the new
I'm
book.
so bad at promoting things, but thanks for reminding me. I should do that tomorrow, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you know the book is out now, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And people can get it pretty
It's in
much.
stores. Amazon is the easiest thing.
Yep.
But also, there's going to be, I think, on October 14th, there's going to be a book party on Zoom. And as lame as that sounds, my daughter and I are going to be doing some, because I'm a songwriter, so
Yeah.
we're going to be doing songs that I wrote for TV.
Yep.
And I'm going to have comedians reading, some of my favorite comics reading from the book.
Yep.
Oh,
that's
awesome.
awesome.
If you
Share
send
us-
us the link,
yeah.
message us the link, we'll share it on the next few episodes and promote it for you.
This is it's so amazing that you reached out because my book just came out. This is another full circle-y type of thing.
No, absolutely. Are you
definitely.
kidding?
I mean, we appreciate you when you came on last year. The books are incredible, so we're happy to do this. And what better story than a Metallica Rodney sharing a joint story? That
20 years in the making.
that was worth it. Just for that alone. So
It was 20 years in the making. That's right.
yeah, I mean, you've had an amazing career, and the fact that you come on and share it with us, Martin, is just an honor for us. So we
Well,
appreciate
thanks for
it.
having me. I mean, this is the second time, and both times it was the most fun I've had on any kind of interview. So thanks.
Really? Oh, we really appreciate that, man. Seriously.
And again, we said it last time. We'll say it every time. You ever come back out to the East Coast, please message us because we'd love to buy you a beer, man.
When we say
Do
the
it.
East Coast, we mean the East Coast. You go to fucking Florida for vacation, we'll meet you there.
Yeah, Ace
we don't care.
has a house in
I got
Florida.
a house in Florida. You could stay at my house.
Yeah,
We'll have a
he'll-
blast.
He'll put you up and we'll meet you down there. We don't give a shit. We will
Well,
fly down.
as long as we can drink some whiskey and smoke a giant
Dude,
spliff.
Absolutely. I
got
don't
it.
even smoke.
You
but
got
if,
it.
But if you could get a fucking joint from Metallica, I will smoke it.
Yes.
How's that?
and we will tell that story on the podcast.
Yeah.
Perfect.
After I smoke the joint.
Perfect.
If you
Well,
want
thanks
to
a
know
lot,
why
guys.
Ace is so ripped, it's because Martin Olson brought a joint from Metallica.
Thank you, Martin. We
No.
appreciate it, man. Again,
Thanks, guys. Here's
pleasure
to you.
having you on.
We loved having you on. Thank you so much, everyone. Check out the Encyclopedia of Hell and the Encyclopedia of Hell 2, which is the Conquest of Heaven.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon. I got it right up in front of me. It's
And I'll put a link in the show notes.
actually Amazon has a
everybody.
deal. You can buy one for $24, but you could buy both together for $41.08 on Amazon.
Yeah, I'm
Awesome.
sorry it's so expensive, you guys, but that's
Not expensive. Are you kidding? That's great.
I'm so happy with those books, and plus I sold the film rights, and then I mean I just was so lucky with that book, so I would recommend it actually.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, here's what's funny. This is from the publisher on the website. Hail Demon Reader. As successor to Satan, I have been asked to compose the preface to this deluxe edition. Despite the criticism of pundits regarding my reign as Emperor of Hell. No, now I, O Demon Reader, that Lord Satan's book, Encyclopedia of Hell, the Invasion of Manual of Earth, of which I was editor-in-chief, defined emperor as a sentiment bag of dirt which rules its acre of rubble. It's this. I mean, your publisher is even hilarious.
Well, like I said, I will put links to the Amazon page to buy them in the show notes for anybody that's listening. You can just click on those, buy the book. You will not be disappointed. Martin's an incredible writer. And, you know, if Metallica found it hilarious, you will definitely find it hilarious as well.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it so much. I'll see you next time.
You got it, Martin.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin.
Cheers.
All right. And that was Martin Olson. I fucking love that guy.
My favorite, one of my favorite
He is
guests.
one of my favorite guests. Absolutely.
Great storyteller, great writer. You got to check out his books. I mean, his career speaks for itself as far as his writing ability. So
Seriously.
the books are going to be amazing.
How many times have you heard us on this podcast since he's been on? Not only did we put him on our opening sequence, but how many times have you heard us talk about him to other
We've quoted
comics?
that episode
We've
many
quoted
times.
it so many times.
Many times. So.
And honestly, when he ever reached out to me and said, "Hey, Ace, can I come back on the podcast? The second book is done." I was like, "Oh my God, when are you available?" Immediately.
Ace reached out to me and he goes, "Hey, Martin Olson just touched base with me." I'm like, "When are we having him on?"
Yeah. I was like, September 1st.
That's a no-brainer.
Oh,
so
awesome.
we appreciate him coming on. It's just a great conversation. It's a great hanging out with him. And again, if you haven't read his first book, you got to get both of them.
Seriously,
you got to get both of them.
It's $24 for the second book, but if you could get both of them on Amazon for $41, and that is a great deal to get two amazing books that have been so highly regarded. Some of our guests, Jerry said, "Can't wait to get my copy." Robin said, "What a smart, multifaceted guest. So much fun listening to this episode." I mean, not for nothing, but my main takeaway from the previous episode was the fact that I need to up my meat game. This is definitely on a higher level. No wonder you like this guy so much. We'll definitely buy both books.
Yeah.
And then Jerry
definitely.
said, "Thanks." Yeah, no, listen, we honestly, we're not just paying lip service. We love this guy. He's one of our favorite guests. If he called me and said, "Hey, I forgot to say something last week. Can I come on next week?"
Yep.
We would have him on next week. That's how much
Absolutely.
we love Martin. And speaking of next week, I do want to let you know we have our friend Chance Langton, another original Boston comedy guy who reached back out and was like,
Chance reached out, and I was surprised because he didn't feel that his first appearance was great, but I thought Chance was awesome. But I look forward to having him back on because Chance is just a comedy icon when it comes to Boston comedians.
and he sent me some clips, and I was listening to him, and I hadn't heard his act in so long. Because again, when you become a headliner, we've said this before, when you become a headliner, you don't get to see other headliners.
Right. You don't work with them
And you especially don't get to work with those headliners that were your idols coming up. And so Chance sent me some links, and I was just laughing my ass off. And we're gonna play a couple of them if we're allowed. I don't know. We have to explain to the audience, right?
Yeah, for those of you that tune in every single week, the last week's episode, if you're downloading,
We had Bobby Brajol,
who is this year's Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame inductee.
yes,
And Ace tried to up his production game, which he's done an amazing job since we've gone
I tried.
live with video. And we tried to play one of Bobby's videos from YouTube called From Chooch to Gooch.
Yes,
Because Bobby
which we had his express permission to do.
The actual man performing in the video said, go ahead and play it, the Italian rapper, and they blocked the audio.
They
when we
blocked
played
the
it.
audios. Yes, so evidently,
Don't know why, but if you download the episode, I put the link to the video in the show notes so you can go watch it yourself
Yeah,
and check it out. It's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. Bobby was just such a gracious,
yes,
amazing, humble
And
guy to have on.
even
And
he was surprised at what happened. He
Yeah.
goes, I don't even know what company blocked it, but there's these bottom feeder, companies that
buy rights to things.
buy rights to things, and Bobby didn't even know they had
No,
the
but-
rights to
but-
his song.
But Bobby is a Sony Music, The Orchard signed artist.
yes,
And he was gracious enough to come on and talk about his many hits that he has,
Yeah.
and the fact that he's going to be in the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame. So
Yeah.
along with my co-host over here, who's
Yeah.
a member of the Comedy Hall of Fame.
Thank
So
you.
but again, you guys have been awesome. Unbelievable support from our audience. You guys are just the absolute best, and we appreciate it so very much.
Yes,
Again,
absolutely.
best way to support the podcast is that 5-star written review. Tell a friend, help spread the word.
just spread the word, get us more listeners. Last month,
Absolutely.
month of well, we don't have August numbers yet, but July was our largest download,
Our best month ever.
ever, and we're hoping that August is similar or somewhere around the same. I don't know if you've looked recently.
No, I haven't had a chance
All
to
right,
check yet.
no worries. That means that's a good note. So hopefully we're growing, and that's as a result of you guys
And
just
your
sharing
support.
it and telling friends. So please continue to tell a friend. 5-star written reviews, we really appreciate it. And
Thank
another
you.
shout out. Yeah, this was
Old
really
Elk.
good. I like Old Oak.
It's a different flavor profile. If you have tried some of the bourbons that we've tried and some of the drinks we've had,
Yeah.
the scotches and stuff like that. This has got a nice, a smooth taste to it. It's a little
was good.
different, but it's good. It's
Yeah.
good. I would drink definitely. I had a couple tonight, and I would drink it again.
And
I did like it.
Our friend Robin, who's out in Colorado, said, "Yay, Colorado!" So check out
Yes.
Old Oak, Robin.
Robin, it's in your backyard.
It's right in your backyard. And hold on, Bucket List Experiences, not only one of the best shows on Twitch, but two of the most handsome hosts. Oh, thank you, Bucket List Experiences.
Thank
I don't know
you.
who that is,
I don't know either, but
but I love them anyway. So that's awesome.
I'm
We
sorry
really
you don't drink
appreciate it.
bourbon, but
Oh, Robin doesn't drink bourbon.
that's okay.
All right. That's all right.
We still love you, Robin.
Our friend Jen can try it. She drinks bourbon. So listen, we want to wrap up the show. Thank you so much. Other than that, we will see you
Next week.